Good morning, beautiful people. I am Katora Butler-Reed, the National Training and Campaign Manager for the NAACP Youth and College Division. Woo! And I come before you today not just as national staff or someone who's proudly representing the oldest, the boldest, the most fearless civil rights organization in the nation, but I come to you before you as someone who lives in Louisiana's 6th Congressional District, the very district at the heart of this case. When I think about the legacy of the Voting Rights Act and the people who fought, bled, and died to protect it, people like Medgar Evers, Fannie Lou Hamer, John Lewis, I'm reminded of why I vote and why this vote and this fight is not just personal, but it's pivotal, and it's a very historical moment. I vote because I have a grandfather who fought in the Vietnam War only to return home to neighborhoods in this very district, communities that were often overlooked and underrepresented, yet he remains one of the fiercest champions of this democracy. I vote because I am proud of the great history and culture of Louisiana, down to our food and music and how we shape the very soul of this country. I vote because my mother, freshly graduating from Louisiana State University, she decided to move to Atlanta days before Hurricane Katrina hit, seeking safety, opportunity, better education, better access, and new open doors for my future. And that move tells us the story of how many of us have had to leave home to survive, even as our hearts remain rooted in Louisiana. Now more than ever, lawmakers must prioritize upholding voting rights for all people in Louisiana. Let's be clear, this fight is about ensuring that every voter in Louisiana has an equal and fair voice in our democracy, especially those who have been historically excluded from it. This is not about partisanship. It is about fairness, equity, and justice. Louisiana versus Calais represents the latest attempt to weaken the Voting Rights Act by limiting Section 2's standing in the redistricting process. The Voting Rights Act was passed to do away with racial discrimination in our elections, yet in Louisiana, exclusion continues. Inclusive representation isn't just about politics. It's about justice. Inclusive representation is what matters. Louisiana's maps finally honor the promise of the Voting Rights Act by giving black voters a fair chance to choose leaders who reflect their lived experiences and priorities. The outcome of this case will determine whether communities of colors across America can continue to have a meaningful voice in our democracy. So today we urge the court to stand on the right side of history. We urge them to protect and not erode the progress so many of us fought to achieve. Louisiana, and more importantly, the entire nation is watching. The right to vote is the cornerstone of American democracy. And the Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act is essential in ensuring that every voice can be heard at the ballot box. So I want to go back to why I vote. I vote because our college chapters and our youth councils have thousands of students across the country who are excited about voting. They're eager to learn about how this democracy impacts them. They're actively working toward a better and more sustainable future. But for our youth councils, for our college chapters, our adult branches, our veterans, our hometown heroes, in order for them to be uplifted, we must uphold the legacy of those fierce champions like those I've mentioned, John Lewis, Fannie Lou Hamer, and Medgar Evers. So make no mistake, what happens here will shape what happens everywhere. This decision will signal whether our nation chooses to move forward in the spirit of equality, in the spirit of equity, or backwards into exclusion. Because when Louisiana fights for justice, we are fighting for the future of democracy itself. So I am comforted in knowing that in these times we unite. I'm comforted in knowing in these times we fight. But most importantly, I remember that when we fight, we win. I said when we fight, we win.